Hi there, beautiful soul. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Grada Robertson and I've worked as a healer, a trauma specialist and an author for decades now. Today, I want to shine the light on inner happiness or lasting happiness. So bear with me. I'm going to unpack this topic over the next 10 minutes and give you a little exercise that you can practice to boost your happiness levels at the end of my little talk. So scientists discovered that humans like you and me have a happiness set point, which acts like a kind of a baseline, and it doesn't matter what our circumstances are, what we do, we tend to get back to this happiness baseline. So for instance, one would be very, very unhappy, right? Just always, and some people are always operating on a level of say 1 to 2. You could say those people are only happy if they're unhappy. So that means their body is more comfortable with being in an unhappy state all the time, right? And then some people are bouncing up and down maybe between level 4 and 5. And then you have people who are always happy and they're sitting up around an 8 or a 9, but those people are actually very, very rare. I would say most of humanity probably sits around a 4 or a 5, between a 4 and a 6. So maybe you can pause this video if you're watching the replay. Just pause it for a minute, really tune into your body, think about your life, and give yourself a number where your happiness baseline would sit roughly. And the reason I like to talk about it today is because I'm an expert in releasing trauma from people's body. Either you have pain in your body, pain in your mind, or spiritually speaking, there is some sort of discomfort or pain or distress going on in your life. And I clear that very quickly using energy medicine where I laser focus into your pain point and clear that. And immediately after the distressed energy is gone, the real self, like your true essence, can fill up your body and your being more. It's like more of you comes home to yourself, and that changes your biology. However, sometimes people go back home and they pick up their old habits again, and it's like they're not actively working on their happiness baseline because they actually have no concept that this is something that you can do. So I've written an article about it as well that explains a lot more of the science behind it. So please also take some time to read this article and share it with your loved ones. But when people release trauma from their bodies, they immediately feel a lot lighter. You look younger, a lot of your pain goes away, your relationships work better. And so I help people to boost their happiness, their health, also their wealth, right? So this also affects your money situation. Trauma blocks money flowing in and it stops you from hanging on to your money. And of course, relationships. So all those 4 aspects of people's life: happiness, relationships, health and wealth. I factor into that and I clear the trauma around it. And then I also help people to stay on track, right? If people commit to coming to me once a month, they end up having a really, really good life with lots of prosperity. So our ancestors used to live in what I call the country of surviving, right? Which has different rules to the country of thriving. And we're entering an era now in our universe, or on planet Earth at least, especially in our corner of the world, where humans now have the ability to thrive because we have a certain level of security and stability, and now it's up to us to thrive. And when you give yourself permission to thrive and be happy and also work on your health and wealth, you lift yourself up and you also raise the tide for everyone. So like even disadvantaged people in other parts of the world get the benefit from you thriving because your energy is raising the tide for everyone in the world. That's in case you have guilt around thriving, which lots of humans do have guilt and shame towards, like my prosperity, and other people don't have it and so on. I'm just clarifying that the better you feel in yourself, the more you help the whole world to uplift, right? So let's just unpack happiness for a minute. So happiness is apparently, I'll just look it up again, 50% genetic, all right? So 50% of your happiness baseline is determined by the genes, by your mom and dad and your immediate ancestry, right? So we'll go into that in a little bit. So apparently 10% is due to circumstances. So, and then 40% is created by your habits, like the habits that, you know, you are your habits, that's what people say, and your habitual thinking as well. So this is something that I want to point out as well. So that actually means we roughly have like the ability to change 50% immediately, even without my help. If you come to me, I will help you release your ancestral genetic code of like unhappiness, right? And you immediately start to feel a lot lighter. So when it comes to feeling unhappy, which a lot of us find ourselves in a bit of a misty, you know, area of happiness, like one morning you wake up, you feel good, the next morning you wake up, you don't feel so good. This can all change, right? And I used to be one of those people, like for probably a few decades, when my children were small, especially. I've had 6 children, they're still all alive, and now I have lots of grandchildren as well. So when my kids were little, I used to think, I'll be happy when they're grown up, I'll be happy when they're out of nappies, I'll be happy when I don't have so much washing to fold, I'll be happy when they stop fighting. That used to be a big one, because all my 6 children were chiefs, they weren't Indians, right? None of them ever made a good team. Like I didn't, out of all the 6 kids, there weren't 2 that ever made a friendship. They were just all very strong individuals. So every single day there were lots of fights, and it didn't bother Pete at all, but it did bother me because I'm a peace-loving creature. So I used to think, oh, I can't wait till they stop fighting and then I'll be happy, right? And of course a big one was the money, right? The money situation, because Pete and I, we always trusted the universe. So when I migrated at age 19, of course, I didn't have any money in the bank, and Pete didn't have any money either, and I was pregnant. We didn't really have a house or a car or a job or nothing, and we just grew from there. So we started with absolutely nothing, and of course we had nothing, so to speak, for many, many years, because all the money just went into the kids, into raising 6 children. So to be honest with you, for the first 20 years of my marriage, I was absolutely preoccupied the whole time. Where's the next dollar going to come from? How am I going to pay this bill? What are we going to eat? Literally, I was worried what we were going to eat. Thankfully, I was very resourceful. So, I mean, I grew a lot of my own food, even to the point where I also recognized the weeds in the garden. So, like, we always lived close to nature. So I knew how to harvest weeds from the garden as well and turn it into a salad. I baked my own bread. And so I was very resourceful. But that doesn't mean that I didn't worry about money. And the money at the time I felt affected my happiness. But now in hindsight, I know better, because I simply had a baseline, right? Which was probably a 5 or a 6. I think on the whole, I was always reasonably happy in myself, but I never really got up to a 9 or a solid 8, where I sit today. Today I would be sitting on a solid 8 or 9 every day. So, and you might relate to that. You might be thinking, I'll be happy when I win the lottery. That's the reason why people buy lottery tickets, of course. I'll be happy when I get a new car, when I go overseas on a holiday, when I find my soulmate, and so on. But you know, scientists or researchers, they discovered that when something really, really big happens to you, either a really big good thing like winning the lottery, let's say you win $1 million or maybe $20 million, a year later, those people are back to where they are, usually they've lost all their money as well, but even if they have managed to hang on to their money, they're no happier than what they were before they won the lottery. And really bad things are the same thing. So when I was involved in a really bad accident when I was 44, just when my life was starting to get really good, like at the height of my career. I was young and fit, my kids were grown up, well, you know, between 10 and 23, so everything was a lot easier. We had opened the Purple House, I had grown a team, things were good in my life, right? Money was flowing in, and then I got hit by a truck, which left me paralyzed with life-limiting injuries, and I was flown to Melbourne to the trauma hospital, and basically for the first 7 days after the accident, I was just one breath away from dying, and nobody could really help me because I had so much internal bleeding going on the inside, so that had to stop first. So during that time, what I realized was, hang on a minute, I'm still okay on the inside. I'm still happy. Like, it wasn't as if I dropped into the depths of darkness, and it wasn't as if all my happiness disappeared. And over time, when I was paralyzed, lying still in the hospital bed for weeks and then months, and eventually I had to sit in a wheelchair, and then eventually I learned to walk again. During that time, I realized I am just as happy as before, right? So it's absolutely true that we have a happiness baseline. And from that moment on, I started to work on that baseline. So the baseline is the foundation, it's your bottom line, how you feel in your worst moment, and then you can build up from that. And it's like building up money in your bank account. You can put credit in your happiness bank account. And in a way, I've shown you how to do that in this article, so I won't go into that too much. I just want to explain to you 2 things: that you need to clear trauma from your life. When you clear trauma from your life, you will immediately get an uplift, and then you need to learn and have the right mindset how to hang on to your happiness, and then you can actively change your happiness level. You can tweak it like a thermostat, right? So if your thermostat in the house is always set on, say, 18 degrees, in Tasmania you can control that in the winter. I like it to be 21 degrees, that's comfortable for me. So my thermostat is always set on 21 degrees Celsius, it's nice and comfortable. If it's 18 degrees, I feel cold and uncomfortable. So mine is set on 21 degrees or higher, like Pete likes it warm as well, and then sometimes if I'm cold, I'll have a warm bath in the middle of the day. So I do things to keep my physical body warm and comfortable. And we have to learn to do the same, take the same action to keep our happiness levels at a very comfortable baseline. And it's all in your hands. So 50% is genetic, so you can't do anything about it yourself, except when you come to a healer like me, like an experienced master healer. You can clear a lot of that darkness out of your system, and straight away, like I said, your true essence, which is happiness and light and unconditional love. That's the nature of who your true essence is. That gets more room to spread into your tissues. Your biology will change, and so that can change very easily. Then your circumstances, which is the only thing most normal, common people focus on, is like, oh, I just want to get a better job or move to a different country. Well, that really only accounts for 10% of your happiness. So I wouldn't even bother with that too much. And the other 40% is mindset and habits. So you do need to create good habits. And one really good habit is to practice gratitude. I know it sounds blasé, but gratitude changes your chemistry straight away. Your chemistry are your hormones on the inside of your body. We're either releasing hormones that put us in contraction, that shrink us, that age us, that make us feel old, or we create hormones inside our body that make us grow, that openness that uplift us and create expansion and growth. So in our universe, there are only two life forces. There's the force of shrinking that leads to death quickly, and there's the force of expansion that opens you up and brings in the brightness and the abundance and all the rest. So of course, you have to make the choice, right? Some people choose to be miserable, and I'm hoping that you will choose to be happy, because this is an active choice. Now, why would you be happy? You could ask, what are the benefits? Well, there are some real benefits. People that are happier, that have a baseline maybe of above 6, they generally live 10 years longer. They also have less disease in their body, their relationships work better, and there are many other things I've already forgotten what I wrote down. It's in the article. Of course, you're easier to be around as well, so you become a people magnet and abundance flows towards you, right? It's just better for you all around. And then a really, really interesting thing that I want to share with you is about people who've had near-death experiences. So they basically almost passed over, but not quite, but they experienced the afterlife and then came back. They all have a common message, and the message is that I regret that I didn't love enough, right? I regret that I didn't have enough love in my body, and that includes self-love as well, right? So we have the benefit of that message and of those experiences from people who have died and come back. I also had a near-death experience, but mine didn't last that long. I just had enough time when after the truck hit me that I momentarily left my body, which meant I left my nervous system. And so for the first time in my life, I experienced what it's like to be alive, like to exist, because I was still existing, without all the crippling fears and worries that had been in my body all my life, right? Because I also had a lot of responsibility. I've had a full life with lots of dramas. And for the first time, it's like my body caught a breather. And I feel so grateful that I had that near-death experience, because my body got a huge up level, right? All my cells were flooded with unconditional love and light, and the connection with the infinite field that we all live in, which is the field of infinite potential. So you can tap into that as well, and that's the field that I tap into as a healer. So if you feel stuck, you want to change your thermostat, you want to turn it up from, 10 degrees and get to a warm 20 degrees, do come and see me. And now I want to take you into a very, very quick energy exercise that will just help you feel a little bit better. So first of all, just rub your hands together, and that creates energy and activates your little hand chakras, which are portals where energy comes in and out through your body. Okay, and then you create a ball of energy between your hands. So you will feel a ball because you feel tingling, or you feel some kind of resistance. And now in your mind, your intention can be this ball of energy is filled with happiness, or you can make it a golden ball, or you can give it a color green or pink, which is the color for unconditional love, and you just feel how big it is. So then you can make it 1,000 times more potent. So now it's very, very potentized. And now you can share that energy with your own body. So you can literally put that into your heart center. So I'm going to do that now. So you slowly breathe in and push that into your heart center, into your chest. And then you might want to do that again. You might want to do that another time. So let's just do it another time. And you can make the ball big or small, it doesn't matter. For the sake of the video, I'll just have a smallish ball, and I can feel the boundary of my ball right here. So I'm just going to give it a beautiful golden color, make it sparkly and filled with happiness and unconditional love, kindness and gentleness, prosperity, all of the good things in life, blessings, gifts, self-love, all right, and peace and calm. And now I'm going to say I want it to be 1,000 times more potent, so it's immediately more potent. And perhaps I want to put it in my thyroid today, so I'm just going to breathe it in with gratitude and thankfulness for my thyroid and for the universe that I live in and for all the abundance that I have in my life today. And I'm literally raising the tide in my body, so you can do that as well. So when you work with your chakra system, you're working with your own hormonal system, because our chakras are our master system that are in, every chakra is in control of a certain set of hormones. And we already know that our hormones create happiness in our body, right? We either have hormones that depress us or hormones that create happiness. And this is how I help myself recover from that nasty truck accident that left me with like scars on my soul and on my body, of course. And sometimes I will give myself a very intense trauma release session, and then I go for a walk through the garden, and I literally feel so light. It's almost as if I'm not touching the ground, I'm floating. My whole body is filled with lightness. And this is what keeps me young, and it keeps me strong, and it keeps me happy, and it keeps my relationships flowing, and it's happiness from the inside out. So I hope that I've inspired you today to focus on happiness. First, you need to choose to be happy, make that commitment, and then follow some of my instructions. And if you really want to have transformation quickly and easily, please come and see me, and I'd love to be with you in my room and have a session together. Thank you for tuning in. Do read the article, and I look forward to being with you next week. Bye for now.